Yeah, what helped me a lot is I had a mentor in Dota, aka Kurt, and whenever I thought I was like too good, he would tell me to shut up, and then he would point out players that were better than me. And then I would play higher skill games, and I would just get wrecked, and I'd just be like, wow, I'm clearly not, like I clearly don't know what I'm talking about, because I would just like, my head got swelled from stomping tier 2s, and I was like, wow, this is like the end-all be-all of Dota, I'm the best. And I think a lot of players in tier 2, not to point out any names, but there are definitely people that take that attitude and presume that they've like, hit the end-all be-all. So that's a big problem right now. It's one of the negative side effects of THR.
Yeah, so I guess it's just some players need a wake-up call. So while we're on that,
Exactly.
What advice can you give to solo players who wish to change from playing from tier games to being on a team?
I mean, so you pretty much, I think to play at least in a competitive level, even if you're a support player, you have to be able to at the very least, be able to dominate a tier 2 game. Like, make a meaningful impact, not just like, buy wards once in a while and fail miserably. Like, you need to be able to know, like, okay, well, I can easily work over these players, otherwise you're just gonna get, like, crushed and vilified by the NA Dota community. It's a very unforgiving community. And so I would tell you to practice as much as you can in tier 1s and tier 2s. Find somebody that's better than you. That's one of the most important things. You find somebody better than you, and you learn from them. Like, I'd find players that were better than me, I would play with them often, and then just learn their habits. And one of the things that hurts a lot is that people, remember, or what I said before, is that they think they're the best player because they play in tier 2s. And it's a completely different thing. Like, I've lost solo mid to some pretty awful players in THR, but, it doesn't change the fact that I could, like, if they were to play competitively, they'd get, like, shit stomped. It's a completely different atmosphere, so
Yeah.
I would say just, play as hard as you can in a tier 2, or whatever leagues you can get. I know NADL is dead, so I guess tier 2 for Dota Cash and THR is all that really remains, but try to play in those as hard as you can. If you're really interested in making a team, NA Dota has a few recruitment posts, but for the most part I'd ignore that. In fact, I just tell people, find 5 people around the same skill level that you're friends with, and make a team with them and just try to have fun. If you're like the best player, then you're obviously not going to improve. But, if you find people that are around the even skill level with you that are willing to make the jump, then it's a lot more handy than trying to find the best available team immediately and being the weak link.
Yeah, and it seems that will just cause more problems if you just jump into a team like that too. So I guess it's pretty safe to say if you find a team of friends that you like playing with, that your team has a more success rate.
I mean, it's one of the things that is necessary is that you need to get along with everybody on your team, otherwise it's not going to last very long. And I had the benefit of and the pleasure of doing that early on when I first started playing. So the teams that I happen to like the people more happen to stay together a lot more because, we could be a lot more open about our issues rather than being complacent or just silently brooding and private chatting others, talking shit behind people's backs. It's a lot easier when you make a team with people and you actually enjoy playing with. But, at the same time, everybody in that team would have to be at least a decent level, otherwise it's going to get really discouraging, getting just crushed in every league you play.
Yeah, it is really hard when you jump into a scrim, and even if the other team isn't that good of a team, if they've had more practice than you, I mean, it's rough. You can get easily slaughtered if you're a new team, so I can totally understand. Yeah. So,
that's one of the... Sorry, go.
Oh, go ahead. No, you're fine, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, a lot of teams get way too discouraged way too easily when they lose a few games because they're used to, like, grouping as 5 people on tier 1s and just crushing. It's a completely different thing, and it's something you have to work at. It's not something that just comes easy to everybody, but continue.
Yeah, definitely. It's not going to happen overnight. So, if these people were to find a team and they wanted to have a captain on their team, I want you to just kind of explain the role of a captain in teams.
Pretty much what I did was I found everybody, I organized games. It's like the worst role ever. You get like no credit, but you have to do all the work. Find games that are appropriate to your skill level. I mean, obviously, whenever we can find when I was starting out, like, we would find people that were around our skill level. Like, it's pretty easy to find teams that are around your level. There are tons of teams out there. And you just find somebody, play against them often, occasionally play against somebody better than you, just to see where you're at. But as a captain, I do picks, I organize games. When I say in-game captain, what I mean is that I usually call the shots. Like, I'll call the pushes, I'll call the Roshans, where to gank, etc. Obviously, my team has input, but...
Two captains, so you usually have like an in-game captain who's doing the strategy and, you know, kind of bossing people around, and then you have a captain who's like organizing things and setting things up.
For us, it was, when Housen started, it was Jing that was doing that, and I would do picks and I would discuss the in-game strategy, but for the most part it goes hand in hand. You know, if you're the leader in-game, you're usually the leader out.
Yeah, that makes sense. So let's get into some tools while you're playing scrims. So I'm going to talk about Ventrilo. What's the importance of using Ventrilo while you're in a scrim or a tournament? Do you think that teams that don't use it are at a disadvantage?
I mean, clearly, the ability to communicate without having to type is really helpful. In higher level games, I feel like there's a little less talking because you just kind of assume people will do the smart thing in certain situations. Like, if they see an opportunity to block with a yes, there's no reason to tell them to stun. But for up in, like, I know our event is pretty quiet, except for like when we shit talk each other, but for the most part, for up and coming teams, it's absolutely necessary to build up that kind of communication so you're all on the same page.
Okay, that makes sense. Unless you're like me and you just get really nervous when you're on Ventrilo and you have somebody yelling in your ear, but I guess you have to overcome that.
Yeah, it's better than Mark. When Mark Drive, whenever you talk to him in vent, like, and he's really into the game, he just kind of ignores you and he just kind of zones out, and it's really, really annoying sometimes because you're like, Mark, you there? And he won't reply to you for like 15 minutes. Yeah, and then he says, what? I know if he listens to me, he's going to be like, I don't do that, but everybody that knows him knows he does that. But continue.
Yeah. Alright, so I just want you to elaborate on the differences between like tier games that we play in leagues and the team scrims that we see on Arena and in tournaments.
I mean, the biggest thing is the picks. For one part, like, THR is centered wholly around RD, whereas, you know, scrims are clearly CM, so one of the things you see is, like, in THR or Dota, I haven't actually played in Dota Catch, but I assume it's the same. You see, like, 4 carry heroes being picked on one team, and just a plethora of useless heroes. I guess that would be the biggest difference. And you've just got the selfish attitude, for one part, for the most part, that people should try to get rid of.
Yeah, it's plaguing Dota players. It's no good.
Yeah, it's like, the thing about Dota is you need to have a high level of confidence to play in it, but it's like a paradox because if you have too high of a confidence, then you feel like you don't have to learn anything else, and when people give you honest, like, good advice, you ignore them completely.